Whether you want to advance your career, get transfer credits, earn your high school diploma, or take college preparatory classes, there's a place for you at Renton Technical College.
Coming here to RTC has really helped me to change my life, and I think it can help you too.
Our programs prepare you for high-wage careers in manufacturing, healthcare, automotive, information technology, business, and culinary arts.
We've got fabulous trade programs that will put you out into the working world. We have classes where you can learn to speak English. We have GED courses where you can get GED credits at the same time that you're getting your program. We have bachelor's programs. We have AA transfer programs. We have everything that you need. We have it here at RTC in a small and welcoming environment that really makes it a wonderful way for you to succeed.
Our students are in high demand. They love our RTC students in the program. They're well educated and they can hit the ground running straight out of graduation.
RTC provides small classes, student support, and flexible course options in an inclusive environment to students who want to improve their skills or take college transfer courses.
It's actually very welcoming, and anytime that you need that extra support in your class, like we have the tutoring, like you can always reach out to the librarian, your counselor. They will help find somebody that's able to help you with that certain class, whether it's math, English, or whatever. There's always somebody that can help.
Everyone's super kind. I want you to succeed here. There's plenty of opportunities. There's like emergency funding. If you need food, there's food drives. There's a learning center. You can rent a laptop as well. There's a lot of opportunity here. They really want it to go back to the students, which is amazing. We need as much help as we can.
Well, one of the things that attracted me the most about RTC is our diverse population. I have students from, most people say all over the world, but I really have students from all over the world. Iran, Russia, Ukraine, Mexico, you name it, and we take everybody and we meet everybody where they want to be met at.
The culture at RTC is one of the things that surprised me the most. It's really diverse, and that was very important to me in choosing a school. There is no two of the same person. Everyone's an individual, and they make it a point to make you feel that way.
It's never too late to kind of take that first step. It's a scary first step, but you'll be so excited and so happy that you did take that first step.
The possibilities are endless at RTC. There's so many different programs, and all the teachers here have so many different connections. So, I mean, there's a program for everyone here. So if you are interested in furthering your career, I would definitely suggest RTC. It's a great place to start and a great place to finish.
Find your place at RTC.
Okay.
Carrie, thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah, new season. Today's the first day of school, so thought it would be fun to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. So as everybody gets in and gets settled, what you were just viewing was a recruitment video from Renton Technical College, which is here in Renton, and Carrie Shaw is a member of our legislative committee, and she serves on the Renton Technical College Foundation. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with introductions, and I'm just going to go around the room. That way we all know who our audience is here, and I'll call on names. So please bear with me. And if I skip over your name, it's unintentional, raise your hand and please introduce yourself. Carrie, I'm going to start with you since you're at the top of my list.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Carrie Shaw. I'm the Executive Director of Renton Technical College Foundation. Great to be with you all.
Thank you. I have Brian Laval.
Hello, I'm Brian Laval. I'm the store manager at the Renton Fred Bar.
Thanks very much for being here, Brian. Brigida Jones.
Brigida Jones, and I'm a community member and a member of Celebration Foursquare Church.
Danielle Smith.
Yes, I'm Danielle Smith and I'm with the Renton Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks for being here. Doug Levy.
Good morning. I'm Doug Levy. I'm a regional state federal affairs specialist and consultant and lobbyist and all that stuff for Renton. Just listening in and here this morning. Thanks.
Thanks, Doug. I have Allie Cohen.
Hey all, I'm Allie Cohen. I'm Associate Dean of Youth High School Programs at RTC, and for the year I'll be overseeing all of our transitional studies programs. I work with Carrie.
Yay!
Thanks for being here, Allie, and congratulations on day one. I have James Alberson.
Hi, James Alberson, City of Renton, Renton City Council.
I have Jeanette.
Hello, I'm Jeanette Burrage, retired judge and current candidate for the Washington State Legislature.
I have Peter Frazier.
Hi, I'm Peter Frazier. I am a hotelier in Bellingham, and Diane was kind enough to invite me to your meeting as I am very interested in Renton, a similarly sized community to Bellingham, and we're dealing with many of the same community issues. So I'm happy to sit in, so thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Peter. I have Minnie. I'll come back to Minnie when I see her mic unmute. Sarah McNeish.
Hi, Sarah McNeish with Multi-Service Center. I'm also on the Renton Chamber of Commerce Board and a Renton resident.
Thanks, Sarah. Sean Bergsma.
Good morning. I'm a Renton resident and District Asset Protection Manager for Fred Meyer, covering both of our Renton locations.
Sean, it's nice to see you. It's been what, 30 years?
Yeah, it's been 30, almost 30.
Minnie, I've got you off mute. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, my name is Minnie. I'm with Abyssinia here in Beauty Clinic, Renton, Washington, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
Thanks, Minnie. I have Tyler.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tyler Bichette, and I am a local public affairs consultant. Some of our clients include developers and business owners in the city of Renton.
Thanks, Tyler. And I have Dr. Avante Bergquist.
Hello, I'm Avante Bergquist. I am on the Renton School Board.
I have listed a Smarts iPhone, but I'm guessing that's not your name.
Hi, I'm Felicia Brick. I am manager of Smart Tech 3D printing.
It's nice to see you, Felicia.
Thank you.
And I think the only, I've got David. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. David Hoffman, Renton resident, along with my wife and two boys and Great Dane. I live up in the Cascade neighborhood, and my day job is I work for Puget Sound Energy, doing local government affairs work, so policy work and community affairs and government affairs work in East King County. And then I'm also, so I'm actually a neighbor of Sarah's, and I also am proud to be the chair of the chamber board this year. So really glad to see the good turnout at the meeting today, or for the meeting today. And I want to thank our state senator and our representatives for being here today, as well as all the guests, of course. But thank you all for being here for the important conversation. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, David. I've got a handful of others. I have Marvin.
Hi, sorry for the technical difficulties. Hi, I'm Marvin Rossetti, and I'm also with the Chamber's Legislative Committee.
Thanks for being here, Marvin. I have Leona.
Hi, I'm with Rip Hackney.
Hi, Leona. Thanks for joining us and thanks for all your help in coordinating. I really appreciate you. Jenny Chang.
Hi, I'm Jenny Chang. I'm Senator Hasewga's Executive Legislative Assistant.
Likewise, thank you for being here and all of your help over the years, Jenny. You are appreciated. I have, I think that's it as far as residents, businesses, and I will go on to the elected officials. Looks like it. So first and foremost, thank you very much for being here. I know your time is, or all of our time is one of our most precious commodities anymore. And to have all three of you join us for what is a topic important to businesses here in the community is really special and impactful for us. So Representative Hackney, I will start with you if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then I'll go to Representative Bergquist and then State Senator Hasewga.
Thank you. Representative David Hackney. I was first elected in 2020 in position 1, representing the 11th legislative district, which now consists of 100% of Tukwila, 99% of Renton, and a few, maybe a half dozen precincts in Kent. I'm currently a vice chair. Sorry, I've got some allergies. I'm currently the vice chair of the Capital Budget Committee. I also serve on the Transportation Committee. Those are both fiscal committees or spending committees. And I currently serve on the Public Safety Committee, which is relevant to the topic we're talking about today. My background, I spent almost a decade as a federal prosecutor prosecuting narcotics and violent crimes in Southern California and the Washington, D.C. area. I've also spent 3 years as a war crimes prosecutor for the United Nations, and I've done criminal justice reform work in Bosnia and Uzbekistan.
Thanks, Representative Hackney, very much. Thank you for being here and thank you for your continued service to our community. Representative Bergquist.
Thanks, Diane. Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Bergquist, State Representative for right here on the 11th, alongside Representative Hackney. My role in the legislature, I serve on the Appropriations Committee as the vice chair. So we help write the two-year state budget every 65 to $70 billion state budget, that about half of which goes towards education. And I'm a high school social studies teacher in the Renton School District, as well as a former small business owner here in Renton. I owned Aces Tennis for a little over a decade, ran all the City of Renton tennis programs, have been very active in the community for quite a long time.
Thank you for everything that you do. Senator Hasewga, it's nice to see you. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Diane. Nice to see you too. I'm Bob Hasewga, Senator, and for this district, obviously. I am the elected chair of the Senate Democratic Caucus, have been for a couple of years now. And I no longer get to represent the neighborhood I actually grew up in, which is Beacon Hill in South Seattle, because of redistricting. However, you know, I have lived in other parts, all parts of the 11th district. Actually, the first home I bought and my first daughter was born in was up there in the Highlands, near Chuck's Donuts, actually. So I'm a lifelong resident of the 11th district, and I'm pleased to be here. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. David, at this point, introductions are through. I will turn over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think what I'm looking at the agenda right now. So the agenda has us really looking to our representatives and senator for feedback on the various crime and safety bills that are possibly up for debate and discussion this next session. And, you know, hopefully not putting you too much on the spot here, but we are very interested in understanding what is, you know, what's coming up in Olympia in January, how our chamber can get involved, and quite frankly, how the business community can get involved in that discussion early and often to be a positive part of the discussion, really. So, so with that, I would hand it off to our representatives and Senator for your feedback on that. So yeah, Representative Hackney, see you have your hand raised.
Yeah. And generally, as the junior member of the delegation, I would defer to my colleagues. But because I'm on the Public Safety Committee, which is where all of these bills will go through, I thought it would be important for me to make some initial statement. First of all, I want to say, understanding a little bit about where we've come from, I think is going to be relevant to where we're going. So in 2021, the legislature took on a host of police reform bills during the George Floyd summer. At that time, there was an understanding that the community was demanding changes in how we policed. And as a former federal prosecutor, it was important to me to have people realize that we cannot police communities without their consent. We need their consent as witnesses. We need them as jurors. This is not a police state where we can just go in and, with brute force and enforce the laws. Our system requires a lot of cooperation. That being said, we thought it was really important to take a look at certain police tactics. We banned chokeholds completely as an unnecessary and risky police tactic. We banned tear gas of crowds, and we did allow them in enclosed buildings in order to get suspects out of a building the more safe and quick way. We put some restrictions on police pursuits. We redefined the use of force, requiring police officers to go through steps to de-escalate and use the least violent method needed. And the standard prior to that was that policemen could use any reasonable force to accomplish their lawful goal. Now we're requiring them to use the least violent way. And during that, we inadvertently, at least it was inadvertent in my part, we banned investigation detentions called Terry stops. And that's because Terry stops happen when a police officer arrives at a scene, they don't have probable cause to arrest. So there are certain indications when they have reasonable suspicion, they can temporarily detain a suspect while they gather evidence and determine if there's probable cause to make an arrest without the suspect leaving the scene and taking valuable evidence with them. So in 2022, we revisited the reforms that we had done, and we reinstated the Terry investigative stop, which was a priority given to me by all the police chiefs in our legislative district. In addition, in 2021, the Washington Supreme Court struck down Washington's law about simple possession of narcotics. And I think that was a correct decision. The law at the time, as it was interpreted, required the defendant to prove that they were not aware that they had drugs in their possession. So there was no knowledge requirement. So if for some reason they grabbed a jacket and they were wearing the jacket, and unbeknownst to them, there were narcotics in the jacket, it was up to the defendant to prove their innocence. Well, under our criminal justice system, it is the prosecution's responsibility to prove beyond a reasonable doubt all the elements of guilt. So the Supreme Court, I think, correctly struck down that law. We passed a temporary fix that expires in June of 2023. That was mostly a behavioral health response to simple possession. Again, this is not distribution. This is not even using in public. This is just simple possession that require police officers to give potential targets of this, of people that were going to be charged with simple possession, multiple chances to go to treatment before they were arrested. So now as we move into the 2023, what we're learning from the police chiefs and community is that our Blake fix, our behavioral health fix, is not working. Renton has provided some data that in some 400 instances of police making contact with people for simple possession, only 10 people or so, I may have numbers not completely right, but a very, very small percentage of them took advantage of the treatment. And what was more concerning was that the business owner or the citizen that was complaining about the individual with simple possession saw the police officers, communicating with the individual and then walking away. What we learned, of course, is a lot of these individuals don't have IDs. So the idea is there's no way to track how many times police had contacted them before they could arrest. So the system we have learned is not working, and if we do not pass a fix to that, if we do not pass a new law for Blake, then we will go back to the status quo, which would be there would be no legal prohibition of possessing narcotics. And again, we're talking about simple possession, not distribution, not manufacturing, not growing, just simple possession. But I think many of us in the legislature would feel that that would be, of course, unacceptable. There are going to be a variety of bills. I'm working with Doug Levy in the city of Renton. I'm also working with the Fraternal Order of Police. I'm meeting with them later on this week about various ideas. Most of the ideas indicate, and I will also say, as someone who has spent a decade as a federal prosecutor imposing draconian sentences on individuals, that mass incarceration as a policy is not effective. We are not going to solve our problems with longer and longer sentences. 3 strikes, 2 strikes, minimum mandatories. None of that had any real impact on crime, but it was extremely expensive. I stay awake at night because concerned that people that I have prosecuted and sentenced are rattling around federal institutions with walkers and canes, posing no threat or danger to anyone. And yet we're paying for 24-hour security and guards and fences for people that couldn't escape if you opened the door and called them an Uber. So mass incarceration doesn't help solve problems. It does take them out of, it incapacitates them, takes them out of society for a while, but when they are released, and eventually they will be, they're back right where they were before. I believe that there's going to be somewhat of a hybrid system where we do have treatment as an option, but it is not the police officer. The police officer will arrest and take the suspect to court, and there that person can be properly identified, and then it will be up to the judge who will have options to provide treatment for the individual. And if they are not amenable or for that, then we will have escalating periods of incarceration. I do believe it's important that we interrupt the misconduct, we interrupt the bad behavior, and take some steps toward that, and then give the person options. But the current system that we have now it's as if we are ignoring the problem. And as we all know, problems don't get better with time. The other area I think there's going to probably be some legislation is in police pursuits. Police pursuits, if not managed correctly, pose an unreasonable risk to the community. When you have vehicles hurtling through crowded streets and with pedestrians and other cars at high speeds, making risky turns and stops, going the wrong way, there's a lot of collateral damage. There's a lot of innocent people that can be seriously injured or killed. I don't believe the answer is for the police not to pursue. I think there are some options of using technology, using drones, using ways where the police can shoot a tracker at a car and then be able to electronically track the vehicle without chasing it at high speed. And there are organizations and states that are working on these kind of fixes. And I think the legislature, I'm probably going to propose a pilot program where we try some of those, the new technology out that will allow police officers to continue to monitor suspects. And the current system now where you're asking police officers to do a balancing test and all of that, it's unworkable. A decision to pursue is made very quickly. And if you're sitting there thinking about whether you should pursue or not, the vehicle is gone. And the other system way now is if we have a suspect, leaving a crime scene, all they have to do is get in the car and be fairly confident that they won't be pursued. Well, that's also unworkable. So I do think there are some opportunities for improvement. I am proud of the vast majority of reforms that we did, which I think made policing safer. The Criminal Justice Training Commission, the ability to certify and decertify police officers' ability to act in the state so they can't bounce from department to department to department with histories of misconduct. We have some groundbreaking reforms that make a lot of sense. For some areas we needed to improve, and we did. And I think there'll be some further iteration in 2023.
Well, Representative Hackney, not only do you have an excellent first name, but that was a fabulous summary. So thank you very much for all of that. I would ask and no offense to Representative Bergquist or Senator Hasewga, your first names are great, but just Representative Hackney and I share something there. So I would turn to Representative Bergquist or Senator Hasewga if you have anything to add. Now would definitely be a great time. Thank you.
I'm happy to jump in. So Representative Hackney, thanks for your great summary, high-level overview. I do want to say, though, that I think your beard is a lot whiter than the last time I saw it. You got very white over the interim, I believe. At any rate, I agree with just about everything Representative Hackney said. There's a couple of differences that I have with him. I guess first off, if we talk about the Blake decision, we had to do something because of the Supreme Court decision, right? Otherwise, there would have been, the status quo would have been that simple possession was totally just overlooked. I would disagree, though, that it has been a total failure or that changes need to be made at this point, because I believe that there are solutions to work that were intended to work hand in hand with what is the bill number 5476, I think it was, our bill to correct the Blake decision. And that is a program called LEAD. And that program, and I noticed that in the letter that was signed by 8 South King County mayors, those letters were all signed by mayors of cities that should be using a LEAD program, but are not. And the mayors that did not sign on the letter are those that are using LEAD or are trying to implement it now. So to me, that says that there is a solution out there that is not being used by the 8 South County mayors that signed this. So I would say, if you're looking for miracle fixes on LEAD, not LEAD, but on Blake, I think that we need to give it some time to work and encourage those mayors to implement a LEAD program in their communities. We did, through that bill, recriminalize simple possession. And to me, when you criminalize anything, that adds to your criminal record, obviously, and that just sets you back if you're the simple possessor, and imposes huge barriers to your recovery just by the fact that you have a criminal record now. it's very difficult to reintegrate back into society as a productive member, to get a job, you know, to go to school or whatever it is. That mark on your record as a criminal makes it very difficult to implement a LEAD program. And I would say that would be the main problem, is that with that criminal record. So the LEAD program avoids putting that criminal strike against you, against the potential offender, the low-level simple possession person, and helps them reintegrate back to society. So I would say that we don't need to do anything with that bill just yet. We should encourage our local mayors to implement a LEAD program. I agree with Representative Hackney on the chases thing. I mean, we're looking for data-driven solutions, and Representative Hackney referred to 2 years ago. And if you'll remember, and I'm sure none of us can forget that summer 2 years ago in 2020, where we were on the verge of a revolution, pretty much. I mean, the whole system was exposed for the embedded racism within the system and the disparities that were pointed against people of color, especially Black people. So I think we stood tall and rose to the call and made necessary corrections to the system. On the Terry stop deal, there's still a problem with that, because it's, when you talk about, we lowered the standard for police detainments of suspects. And by lowering that standard, we know that, and I actually gave a floor speech on this, and maybe if I can reiterate that. So what is reasonable suspicion versus probable cause? Probable cause is the appropriate standard to detain somebody. Reasonable suspicion, people could be pulled over for whatever. They may, law enforcement may have a reasonable suspicion, however that's defined, and detain somebody. Well, we know that those detentions are disproportionately against people of color. And that could lead to further negative consequences down the road. So probable cause for an actual crime should be the reasonable standard. The Terry stop deal lowered that, and that's why I was opposed to that bill. Now I know that my colleagues voted for that, and we're not on the, you know, we don't philosophically differ, I believe, on the issue, but there was quite a bit of pressure to do something around that standard. I happen to disagree with it. So the example that I gave was, okay, if you get a call coming up that there's a robbery in progress, so a police officer pulls up to the 7-Eleven or whatever it is, and sees somebody running from the store. So is that probable cause to stop them? So if you see a Black person running from the store, is that probable cause to stop them? Or if you see a white person in a suit running from the store, is that probable cause? Maybe the crime is still going on inside. So probable cause is probably, if you saw a Black person, that police officer is going to go chase them. And if you saw a white person wearing a suit running, probably going to go inside. The police officer is going to ignore that and go into the store and see what's going on. Is this robbery still in progress? So it's disproportionately applied, can have negative consequences, disastrous negative consequences. And I shouldn't say probable cause. I should say, in those circumstances, reasonable suspicion. If the person happens to be black versus if a person happens to be white running from the store. So that's the reason that I'm opposed to reasonable suspicion as opposed to probable cause, which was the essence of that Terry decision fixed bill. But other than that, I think we're on the same page on pretty much everything else.
Thank you, Senator Hasewga. I really appreciate that. I know that there are a lot of folks who have signed in to share their thoughts and perspective, and I really appreciate that. I do want to give, if Representative Bergquist has something to add, I want to give you the opportunity to add that, and then we can get into. I'll kind of set some ground rules as far as what we're looking for comments, and then we'll go from there. But Representative Bergquist, please go ahead.
Thanks, Dave. There's been a lot of information already shared. I'll try to keep it brief. My understanding of our reforms over the last 2 years, and it kind of to Representative Hackney's point, is a majority of those reforms we're working hand in hand with our officers and with the community to make things better for everyone. So, a vast majority of the things that we've done over the last couple of years have been working and have been moving us in the right direction. However, on a few spots, and I think everybody's very aware of where those are, there's still room for improvement, significant room for improvement in some cases. And my ability, I've been able to go on ride-alongs with the Renton police officers for the last 10 years, at least once a year, kind of getting their perspective on what's going on. As recently as last month, I was on a ride-along, meeting with the city of Renton, meeting with the chamber. So we had a Representative Hackney and I met with the city, I want to say about a week or two ago, to see where we are at coming into session, what we can do. And it's very clear that the Renton police are struggling with the possession piece and the referral piece, and their hands seem to be tied in a way that is making it very difficult for businesses and our community to kind of turn the corner on this. And as a former small business owner, I do get the frustration, and I think we're in a position to make those changes in a way that is not going to criminalize. I know that the city of Renton has been real active in trying to come up with a path that just allows for a more quick referral to a drug therapeutic option that doesn't criminalize the first stop, for example. If there's a way we can come to that, I think Representative Hackney is kind of aware of where that might be able to work. I'd be supportive, and I think there are different programs to look into, such as LEAD that Senator Hasewga brought up. Not sure how those go hand in hand, but I think there's opportunities here for us to make an impact in this next legislative session that will help our communities come out of this in a much better situation.
Great, thank you very much, Representative Bergquist. Really want to thank all three of you for putting your thoughts and opinions on the table here. I said before, I want to lay the ground rules. I shouldn't have put it that way. I'll put it differently. I want to set the table for us here as we are having a family discussion, I'll say. And some folks in the family are a little frustrated with how things have been going. And so, I do see Jeanette, I see you're on. I want to make sure right out of the gate that I make it very clear this isn't a candidate forum. This is not a campaign stop. And I know you know that. I know everybody on the call knows that, but I just want to make that very clear right out of the gate. And then also say, I'm very interested to hear from our small business members who are in the trenches, if you will, dealing with the, I'll say, quote unquote, problem. And for you all, it is a problem. It is a very real part of your day every day. And so I'm very interested to hear from you all. And with that, I would turn it over to somebody who may have a story to share about what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, how your relationship with the Renton Police Department may have changed over the last couple of years, and all of that. So Marvin, I see you have your hand raised, so I will go to you first. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, David, and thank you, Paul, for being here. It's great that a good portion of you are known friends, and it's like David said, this is a family discussion, and I know this is something that's been on our minds. One of the first things first of all, I appreciate the discussion on the police reform. I have all due confidence in our police force in order to make sure that those reforms are met, because they are a reflection of our police force here. We have a lot of lateral officers that will not move, and that's a good thing. We have officers that have been here 10+ years. Again, these are things that our police force believes in, and I know that our police force will continue that work. But I think today, one of the things that I guess a lot of our business owners would probably want to focus on, specifically to our legislators today, is that we're dealing right now with issues of open use of these drugs that are out there. There are several stops within the local Renton community that are in the open air, where there is that open drug use, open vagrancy. We find it comical but serious, where open drug use happens to be right directly near the "Welcome to Downtown" sign on Rainier Avenue, and some of these are still after effects from when the county decided to make a decision of having the homelessness shelter here in Renton. These are feelings that the people of Renton not only feel, but these are things that we see them every day, and they are not changing, and that's an issue. We know that some of our local city representatives are here. Thank you so much. But we need to put this up to the state, because these are the things that are not being enforced. These are the issues that we're going with right now. My second point to legal and law enforcement, I know a lot of these were knee-jerk reactions to George Floyd, but we also have to be mindful as well that some of these also had the vision of the CHOP. What was going on in the CHOP in 2020 and 21, all of those, the summer of love, if you will. I think there's a difference between city and individual enforcement by police officers versus a full tactical organization in order to stop rioting in a city. I think those two need to be looked at separately before we have a knee-jerk reaction on how our officers need to behave. So I'm hoping that our state legislators are able to do that. The other thing is resources, making sure that our police on the ground are having the resources so we can now worry about the stuff other than police reform, the everyday things like I mentioned before, the vagrancy, the open air drug use. We now need those local resources, or refocus back to those things that help define our neighborhoods. Part of that is also quote unquote Seattle's problem of homelessness driving in, and also driving in the crime that goes with it. Once they're leaving Seattle, they're now coming to the outskirts of jurisdictions outside of Seattle. Renton being, as we're concerned, the #1 place because it's so close. So back to our state legislators, what resources are you planning for the next session coming up? What ideas would you present in order to help our local lawmakers to help give our governments the tools in order to make sure that we can define our neighborhoods the way we want to, by saying these are the crimes, or these are the vagrancies that we want to focus on, specifically tailored to our needs. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Marvin. Yeah, so I'll give our elected officials.
I don't mind asking. I don't believe any of the laws that we pass tie the police department's hands on any of that stuff. So But I would also offer up that that's a classic example of where LEAD works, because LEAD is law enforcement assisted diversion. And it has a wraparound system supporting it. So it goes to the street to find folk who should be diverted. It doesn't, or if the law enforcement happens to detain somebody, then they can go into that system. But I don't see, I mean, Marvin, you're going to have to be more specific on what law we passed that prohibits law enforcement from dealing with those issues.
Well, I'm not talking about the prohibition. It's I think we agree that reform was necessary, but I think what's our concern right now, so that way my apologies for trying to redirect the conversation along with the reforms, was that now we are right here in Renton, our focus now is back to that enforcement of because that street level enforcement we need now. And so my apologies for the desperation, but where I appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the question is, what would you have the legislature? It sounds like it's a local problem, and I don't think the legislature is going to come in and tell the Renton Police Department, or I mean, this is no casting of aspersions on the Renton Police Department. I want to make that clear, because we all know that law enforcement has a very difficult job. There's 1,000 decisions that need to be made every minute, that oftentimes are life and death. So what would be best is to have just clear rules and regulations coming down from the corner office saying, in this case, you do this, or in that case, you do that, and takes a lot of decision-making burden off of the shoulders of local law enforcement. But there's also community policing strategies. I don't know if you're familiar with like the International District Emergency Center. International District had been neglected by law enforcement for such a long time. So they created their own community policing. So it wasn't necessarily policing, it just served the community. And it had numerous volunteers and numerous people who got involved with just walking around the district, at all hours, and making sure that people's needs were taken care of, or responding to emergencies and that sort of thing. And it was the community looking after the community. And why can't we put some resources into giving people jobs doing that? I mean, there's no end of the number of solutions we can look at to just create more community, and community looking out for community, rather than armed law enforcement coming in and taking care of whatever minor problems like open air. We can get lead folk down there working with community caretakers, I guess would be the best way to put them.
Well, thank you, Senator. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add, but I do want to make sure that we get to our small business members who've joined us today. And I want to give them an opportunity to share their stories. So, and I know not everybody is super familiar with Zoom. And so I know Minnie has had a story to share or something to put on the table. So I know Jeanette, you have your hand raised, and Sean, you do as well. Minnie had reached out separately and let me know that. So Minnie, I'll turn to you and you can share your story.
Thank you so much. I've been in the Renton location area for more than 7 years. However, for the last couple of years, gets worse. I would say this, me and my clients and my crew, we are very frustrated and tired of dealing with those, individuals when they come into our facility. We ask them to leave our salon, but it's just like gets more threatening. to our lives and also to our clients. So how would we continue like this, being always, sometimes if we have only 1 or 2 clients, we lock our door. It doesn't work that way because we are in business, and it's just really, really frustrating. To be honest, I'm losing some of my clients. They asked for me to relocate somewhere else, but it's just really frustrating at this point. And they've been coming not only once, so many times. For the last couple of years, it's just getting so worse.
So many, I'll ask a question of you.
Yeah.
Can you share what your interactions with the Renton Police Department have been? Have you been contacting Renton PD? What has their response been, and what's that interaction look like?
They would come, of course, we call them, they would come and they ask them to leave. So when they know that we call police, they already go and we give them descriptions and they follow up with from there. But the Renton police, of course, they come and they ask them politely, they interact with those individuals. That's not the problem. The problem is we are in the middle of our operation, and they come, and it's just really, I'm a self-employed. I'm not just sitting in the office. I work on the live clients. So that is what frustrates me so much. That's my daily bread. And I'm losing every single day. What do we do about that? Police, yes, they do their job. They come and they, in fact, they just really politely ask them to leave and to follow up from there. And sometimes they give us trespassing. That's okay. But how many of them? They're not the same people who comes in our facility.
Yeah. Got it. Well, thank you for that, Minnie. I really appreciate it. Just recognizing time. Sean, I'm going to go to you, and then Jeanette.
Thank you. Just wanted to kind of cover some, coming from a large business at Fred Meyer, wanted to kind of share some hard stats that we see within asset protection. I'm going to not talk about the theft and issues that we've seen already increase. I'm going to really stick with the numbers that affect the community, the customers in our stores. So we have seen, this is year for year, up to this year, compared to the same time last year. We have seen increase in assaults of 400%, trespasses up 50%, disorderly conduct up 412%, harassment up 100%, illegal drug use and possession up 100%, perverted activity up 100%, robbery up 100%, trespassing up to 350%, and vandalism up 800%. What we find, and what I have been around this location here in downtown Renton for years. I actually closed the Sears store, worked at Sears, closed the Sears store. I opened this location, been involved with this location for many years. What we see and what I have seen isn't necessarily the police. Yes, the police are stretched thin. I think all forces are very shorthanded, and something needs to be done with that. But what we're seeing is, from the retailer standpoint, is when we have individuals come into our store and they're disruptive, openly doing drugs in the restroom, doing drugs in the front of the store, human waste because they're sleeping in front of our store, and we have etched concrete from that stuff. We have individuals that come in, the police come, and they're unable to do much. They are very, they're open, they talk to them, they get them to leave in some cases. But in many cases, we see these individuals come back, sometimes within minutes. Just here recently, we had them come back 6 times in 4 hours. These are the individuals that we really have to focus on. And what we're finding is that when we have those individuals, it's really the prosecutor level. It won't allow them to book them if they have problems. It won't allow them to get them off the streets. And what we get back from the King County prosecutor is it states that it does not meet current filing standards. So we actually have felony cases within our locations that the King County prosecutor won't take. So what I have seen over the last couple of years is that increase. The officers are doing all they can. I think the Renton police are amazing, but that is what we see from our standpoint. I know that was brought up with LEAD, like a diversion program. We already do a diversion program for theft ourselves. The numbers that I give you right now are the ones that are actually reported in our system. Just this morning, I had to move a gentleman drinking his high gravity beer in front of my door so I could get into my office. But it has grown so much. Now, I do have to appreciate all the legislature's done just recently with kind of going back and opening up the police and allowing them to do stuff. We've seen some improvement with that, but just from my level and what I'm looking at and what I can state from this lot here, from my personal experience, is it's worse now than it ever has been. So that's all I have.
David,
Great.
if I could take a moment of privilege to interject and thank Minnie and Sean for speaking, and to the representatives that are here. What you are hearing is consistent from what the chamber is hearing across the board. Minnie represents the small business that's working live on her client. Sean has corporate resources, and you can sense and hear his frustration at the numbers as they mount. And so that is blanket across the board for small businesses, most of which who can't afford to be here this morning to share their stories themselves. Thanks, David.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. That's a really good point. Especially that last one, that a lot of folks aren't able to be here because they're running their business. So, all right. And with that, I'll turn to Jeanette.
Thank you, David. I'd like to talk about the Blake decision, which is a Supreme Court decision. And since I was an attorney and a judge, I think I'm qualified to do that. I read the decision, and what it says is that the person has to know that what they have is an illegal substance. And that wasn't really an unusual decision. Most of the states in our nation have that. But the legislature used that as, I think it was an excuse, but they used it as a reason to write legislation that encourages prosecutors. It actually says in the legislation, in the law, that prosecutors are encouraged not to prosecute drug cases. And it'd be great if we can get this law assistant process in place, but they should have had the programs in place before they stopped prosecuting, because that just leaves them out on the street and causing crime to take care of their habits and their lives. Also, Representative Hackney said that he put people away for a long time, and that is what the federal sentencing guidelines are longer than our state guidelines. And so we didn't have quite the problem in Washington State as they did have with the federal legislation. But I really think that since this is not a candidates forum, that the chamber should hold one, and I'm requesting that you do so because there's a lot of other things I'd like to comment on. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, any other small business members who have a story to share or a thought to add to this discussion? Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter Frazier from Bellingham, a hotelier here. We're experiencing the same level of chaos, and I know these stories of business owners in your downtown, just like ours. And Senator Hasewga, we have a LEAD program, and it is 2 years, been going for 2 years. It's wonderful, excellent outcomes for about 4% of the population of that it works with. And everybody around here knows it's important, but it is not an answer. It's not going to change things because it has a limited reach. So just need to bring that up. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Peter, for that perspective. All right. With that, I went and muted myself. Sorry. All right. Well, you know, we've taken quite a bit of time here, and I really appreciate Senator Hasewga, Representative Bergquist, and Representative Hackney being here for this conversation. I'm not hearing anybody else wanting to share a story. Do any of the three of you have anything to add or any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Excuse me, David, I'd like to add one thing. My name's Stephanie Peters, and I'm not only a candidate and a long-term resident of Renton and starting a small business here in Renton. I am a lifelong resident of Washington State, and I have family over in Eastern Washington. And I just like to make a comment as a family member dealing with another addicted on the street family member. And I think the stats that the Renton police shared with us, 300 interactions, only 10 accepted services. Addicted people don't want services. They want to stay addicted. It's kind of the nature of the cycle. And if you don't have the tools, which this state legislature took away from the families of addicted individuals, to hold criminality above them, to force them into addressing their issues and dealing with it. I'm all for community programs. I'm all for decriminalization. But what we have in our society right now that you're hearing from the businesses and the family members is that we need more tools to address this. Not any more programs, not any more funding. We need the hardcore tools. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I'm seeing, I'm sorry, is it Brigida?
Yes, Brigida. So
Okay.
I want to tag on to what Stephanie just said. As a family member of a former addict, my son has been in recovery for 2 years and is doing quite well. And he does have the issues with the criminal record to overcome and getting a decent job to support his family. But he's working hard to do that. And he knows that, you know, he did those crimes and this is part the hard work of that. So just as far as the criminal going to jail part, if he could be here today, he would tell you that the times that he was arrested and put in jail were beneficial to, you know, getting him into recovery. It was after he got out of recovery that was a lot of the problems, because he was thrown back into the streets a lot of times. So it did take several recovery times before he really got that, you know, stick to itness and was really able to utilize what resources he could, because they got better over time. But jail was so crucial, and it's really the judges that need the help when it comes to these arrests that are happening, because his last time in recovery was because of a judge who took the time to care about him and make decisions for him. She got warrants squelched so that he could get into treatment again. She just went up. This was a Renton judge. She went above and beyond to make sure that he got into the help that he needed, because some of the things had changed at that level. And I think there's a lot of judges out there who would really like to be able to do some better referral, have some better referral options. There was one judge when he was in jail where I wrote letters and did all kinds of stuff and the judge said, my hands are tied. This is what I can do. And the program that they put him in was a good program, except for it was an outpatient program, and he wasn't at a place where he could manage that. So he didn't make it through that program. Had that judge had some better resources, I think he would have listened to me and got him into a program that would have been more beneficial for him at that time. So being arrested, I understand the record thing, I really do. And maybe there's some things that need to change about that. But being arrested gives them a break in their minds, gives them a chance to think about recovery. Police going out to them on the streets and saying, hey, let us help you get into recovery. They're not in a mindset where most of them are going to accept that. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for that that perspective in your personal story. It's not always easy to share those things, so I really appreciate you doing it. And then, as I was saying before, I want to give our representatives and senator an opportunity to leave us with some final thoughts, as well as, quite frankly, what I'm looking for, and I think what the chamber board and our membership is looking for, is what action can we take to help you all when you're in session, and quite frankly, primarily before session. What can we do to help set the table and set the stage for positive changes? We all want a positive outcome here. I think we can agree on that. We all want to see folks get the help that they need, while also helping our small businesses not deal with the same kind of challenges that they are dealing with right now. So Representative Hackney, you have your hand raised, and your first name is David, so you go first.
Okay, once again, thanks everyone. I do appreciate people taking the time to share. We do hear you. We do understand the frustrations, and I, for one, do think that we will have to take action. So the law will expire. So we will either have to reinstate the current program, come up with another program, or we will have no law against simple possession. Again, to not be repetitive, it is my intention to support or drop legislation that will give police officers more tools to make arrests at the scene, and then give the judges options to, with respect to treatment and incarceration. So I do think that that misconduct or behavior on the street needs to be addressed and needs to be interrupted. I will also tell you, again, from my experience as a federal prosecutor, we will not solve this problem with longer and longer prison sentences. We learned that there is very expensive, and it does not, as Senator Hasewga mentioned, it does not assist in recovery. It is actually oftentimes a roadblock to recovery. But on the same token, and I do appreciate those that have family members. I have family members that are in recovery, but allowing them to remain on the street without any intervention is not very good for them or the community. So I will, so I'm, just saying, I'm personally going to be actively advocating for more intervention and more tools from the point of the judge, and not to ask the police officers to have to make that decision on how to address it, but allow them to use their discretion to arrest, and then have the court system make those difficult decisions. And I would also like to, I've noticed that there's a lot of concern, which I appreciate it. We're here to take feedback, good or bad. But the crime surge was not as a result of the legislature's police reforms. That shows just not a good understanding of criminal activity. The crime surge has a lot.
I want to be nice on this, but I'm not going to listen to you lie. A lot of the crime increases because of the legislation.
I'm sorry, Jeanette, but that's out of line.
Yeah, well, no kidding.
Again, like I said, from my perspective, It is not the result of the legislature's reforms. Like I said, many of the reforms were very positive. I will say though, in light of the surge, which has a lot to do with the pandemic and people being at home and the economic crisis that we're in, we want to make sure that police have all the tools necessary, including investigation stops, including the ability to intervene with people with simple possession. So we didn't cause a problem, but I do think it is our responsibility to make sure that our police have and the prosecutors have all the tools they need to respond to crime. And I'm also working with other groups about the things that really reduce crime. I think our peer groups like Choose 180 and Community Passageways, which use former offenders who act as mentors to individuals who have been or who have not been in the criminal justice system, who are in it, and help them have a pathway to reentry and to being productive members of our community. So thank you for that.
Just quickly to jump in. Is that okay, David? Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
I appreciated everybody's time today, but I wanted to make sure just to point out, we all three of us have a pretty significant open door policy. We're willing to talk to basically anybody that especially constituents that have something they'd like to share. Working with the chamber, our work with the city of Renton. The best legislation gets done when everybody's working together and can come to the table and get something on the books that everybody's behind. And that's, I think, our goal for this session is to try to get the cities as well as our communities and our business owners together to come up with a solution that works ongoing.
Great, thank you, Representative Bergquist. Senator Hasewga.
Yeah, thanks, David. Even though you're not a Bob, we love you. Yeah, I just want to uplift everything that my colleagues have just said. We do have open doors. We want to hear the feedback, and I appreciate everybody for sharing your stories. I just want to point out that what I heard are results of systemic problems that are happening and increasing. For the last several years, especially since COVID, mental health issues and behavioral health issues are just skyrocketing, and who knows what that's a result of, if it's from the isolation or if it's from financial hardships, because we know income inequality is increasing to record levels too, which is leading to people teetering on the edge, living in precarious financial circumstances, becoming homeless. Homelessness is going through the roof at the same time. Nobody can afford, look what's happening to rent now. So all of these social problems are just compounding, and they manifest in behavioral health problems. And as a result, we put hundreds of millions of dollars into dealing with behavioral health issues just in the last budget. So, keeping things into perspective, I agree with Representative Hackney that I don't think what I heard was a result of the legislation that we passed. We have social problems that we're going to have to think big picture on how to deal with these. Otherwise, you look at the divisiveness that's happening throughout the country now, and polarization, and we're just feeling the effects of bad stuff, really. And unless we can figure this out and come together as a society again with more empathy and with more big picture understanding, taking the steps at the local level we need to achieve that big picture, we're in deep caca. So I'm hoping that we can all have these kinds of family conversations as you open this up, so that we can share our ideas and not scream at each other as some people choose to do. And let's move forward together.
Well, thank you, Senator. Yeah, again, I appreciate you hitting on the family conversation aspect of this. You know, I'll take a point of personal privilege. We're way over time here, but in my work, I've worked now for PSC for about 5 years, but before that, I worked for the Master Builders Association for 11 years and became extraordinarily familiar with the Growth Management Act. And the Growth Management Act is a set of state level rules that apply at the local level. And what ends up happening is the responsibility for growth ends up getting kicked around to every city. And everybody's trying to, you know, say, oh, well, that's Sammamish's job, or that's Seattle's job, or that's Bellevue's job, at least in King County. And, you know, everybody says that, oh, this is the want to see growth move forward. But I liken in my conversations, at least with the Renton Police Department, Renton leadership, and with community members in the Chamber of Business membership, I liken what I'm seeing with the policing discussion and with the challenges that law enforcement is facing, and quite frankly, the challenges that our broader society, as you put it, are facing. Very similar to the Growth Management Act, in that you've got a set of state rules that give direction to the local level that then have to be implemented somehow. And I think, as was said, I may have said it at the town hall that was held several weeks ago. I think some of these changes that were made at the state level, whether as a result of the Blake decision or not, were made with good intentions, but without the resources necessary to really meet the need. So really hoping that as we move forward, you know, similar to GMA, you know, we're running into a resource need. We only have so much land, and we're running into a lot of challenges around that. So I'm looking forward to the robust conversation that we're having here today continuing, and as more folks share their story and we're able to bring folks together, that we can hopefully get to some good solutions that work for our business owners, their customers, and also, just as important, the folks that are quite frankly causing the problems right now, and they're out there on the street, they're making poor decisions, that we can help and support them in whatever ways is possible. And if they choose not to take that support and help, that there are consequences, just like there are for all the rest of us if we choose not to follow the rules. So that's, I'll just leave it at that. Again, I want to thank you. I guess Representative Bergquist had to drop off, but Senator Hasewga, Representative Hackney, thank you so much for being here today. And I will leave this discussion at that. Diane, I know that we had several other things on the agenda today. Unfortunately, I have to drop off. So if you would like to finish up this discussion, that would be great with me. And I think there's a discussion about a possible candidate forum, as well as a few other things that you have on the agenda here. So I'll leave it in your very capable hands. Thank you, Diane. And thanks everybody for being here. Great turnout.
Thanks, David. And we will forgo the remainder of the legislative agenda today, other than to alert everyone. Wednesday, September 28th, equally as important with crime and safety in our communities, we will be hosting a candidates forum for the King County prosecutor here in Renton at Carco Theater. That's between 7 and 8:30 p.m. There's information in the chat for registration for that. $10 donation suggested, certainly not required. There are expenses in bringing the candidates forum forward. Also, I will be reaching out to the candidates that are running for office currently for the state positions to gauge interest on a candidates forum for your positions as well. I thank you for the ask and recommendation, Jeanette. And again, thank you to everyone for being here. I know it is frustrations that bring us together. Time is our most precious and valuable commodity. One of the most valuable commodities we have right now. And I thank you all for sharing your time with us today. We'll be in touch.